everyone has the reference picture I sent out, so I will send that again. I was talking with Leah kind of about why I chose this, and it's something to think about when we're looking at pictures we like. Why do we like it? Why are we choosing it? And what is my story going to be? So this picture, I got it from a site that I belong to with free reference. So I don't even know where it was taken at, but I love that main tree. That's going to be my superstar in my painting. So
Emma, I just added you to the thread, by the way, so you should be able to see this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that I was doing working through this was, okay, how am I going to set up my palette? That's always, you know, compositionally, I might change it a little bit. How am I going to change it? How am I going to make my painting a little more dynamic? Dynamic meaning, how am I going to lead my viewer to that focal point? So there's all these steps in our mind that we're processing as we're getting ready to do our painting. So that's kind of what I wanted to do today, was to walk through picking our palette. Okay, when I started looking at this picture, I realized the values. The values are very similar. I mean, you know there's trees in the back, you know that they're in the distance, but in this picture, they are crowding that tree in the front. And so we need to push those trees in the back. And I want to show you how I knew this was my test as I flipped it to black and white. I do this a lot, and I highly suggest it. I'm sending over a picture. You can see the trees, they're all almost relatively the same value. And so landscape painting, we're always painting the illusion of distance. That is what we do. And how do we do that? We pick colors that are values of these hues to create that distance of illusion of distance. And so how do we push those trees in the back? What colors, what do we choose? Does anyone know?
Blue?
Yes, a blue, right. A duller, grayer, muted blues. And
yes,
you have to do the muted colors, because if we do like the bright colors in the front, like the tree, and the bright colors of the distant trees, they're going to fight for each other. We're not going to have that distance, that depth. So yes, you are correct. So now we're thinking, okay, my process when I was looking at this was like, well, I kind of want to have a little bit more of what's going on in the background. And it just seemed like a lot of shrubbery. And so I kind of just wanted to break it down. So I sketched it out, and I'm going to send you what I sketched. In this picture, I did these 3 little sketches, and I did it primarily to think about values, the darks and the lights. Where's my light source? You see the sun off to the left. So I'm thinking already in my mind, I want the viewer to kind of lead up to that tree, and maybe I'm going to add some shadow, like a cast shadow.
Sorry, Maria. Are you sending pictures?
Yeah. Are you getting them?
No. Oh, Kyoko, you might not be on there yet. Hold on, let me get you.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'll add her, Marie. I'll add her. Hold on. That's my job. I fell off the wagon for a second.
No, that's okay.
Thought I got you in there.
So we do, when we're working through our process of our painting, this is kind of what I want you to do. I want you to look at the composition, assess the values, what's my story, why am I painting this? And then I actually had to dissect this picture down a little bit more for myself, is why I did these smaller sketches. It wasn't as easy as a plan in my mind. And so I kind of felt better after I had sketched this out on my pad, kind of just figuring out how I wanted to lay out my painting. So today, we're going to do a wet underpainting. So last week we did a dry. Yes.
I've got paper but doesn't take water. I'll
Are
do
you?
it right.
Oh,
That's okay.
oh yeah, okay, yeah. Just
I'm
do it
trying
dry.
out La Carte. Similarly,
cool.
pastel card.
Yeah.
It hates water.
Yes, it does. Yes. And that's fine. You can do a dry underpainting. But I guess when I started thinking about that, I was like, why do I do a dry underpainting in one painting and why a wet one in another?
So why?
So for me, as silly as it seems, I just don't want to wait for the alcohol to dry. So I just do a dry underpainting. So if I'm doing a lot of like practice sketches and I'm learning the process and I'm working something more and more a subject, I'm going to probably go with the dry underpainting. If I've kind of honed in my skills on something like the waves, I kind of tend to do the wet underpainting because it's set a little bit more on the sanded paper. And I feel like with wet underpaintings, you can be a little more dynamic, meaning you can experiment with bright colors because when you paint on them, I mean, the pigments become much more livelier. So in this one, I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more fun because it's a fun picture, but I wanted to add a little bit more of a punch of color in it. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. So that's why I decided to do a wet underpainting. So what colors do we choose for our underpainting? Well, landscape. It is primarily red in this picture, red purples, and I kind of wanted to bring that out a little more, so I decided to do red as my underpainting. And I'm going to take a picture of these colors. So we're going to pick together today. So you're going to go through your pastels and kind of choose something similar to these colors. And I just sent it through the thread. So on the value scale, we've got light, midtones, and dark. Why? Because we have those values in our painting. So the sky is going to be our lightest, working all the way down to our darkest of our darks, which will be this maroon. So I'll kind of wait until everyone is done kind of going through your colors.
Is that the lightest color? Is that kind of a peachy creamy or what?
Yeah, it is.
Can we see, Marie, what you're picking, or is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so basically, here is my range of reds. And so I have my reds from the darkest darks moving all the way down to the lightest lights. And so when I'm thinking, and this is
Where
how
are we seeing this?
This is my palette,
Okay.
my
Yes,
tray.
So you're gonna show it to everybody?
Yeah. Did it come through?
Yeah, it came through.
Oh, I see it. Oh, you took a picture of it. Okay, got it. Okay.
And I can take another picture.
So is that helpful, you guys, for you to see that?
Yes, very.
Okay.
And presumably you mixed up brands?
Are you mixing your brands, Marie?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've
So
always hesitated doing that too.
yeah, that's a good question. I do mix my brands. I kind of know what I have. And so if I'm looking for some really soft pastel, which is what I tend to use that towards the end of the painting, will be like a Terry Ludwig or a Unison. And for my underpainting, I try to stick with the hard pastels, the new pastels, if I have them in the colors. If not, I'll throw in like I did with, I have a soft pastel and I'll just be more gentle with it when I apply it on the underpainting. And the reason being, the hard pastels don't take up the tooth of your paper as much as the soft pastels. So in order to preserve our sanded paper, we want to make sure that we can layer with our hard pastels first and then move to our soft. I've arranged my palette with the darkest of the darks at the top, if you can see in my tray, down to the lightest. It really helps when I'm looking at choosing what colors to choose. Like, do I need a mid-tone? Do I need a darker color? Do I need to move more into a blue-green? And I have the blue-green, you know, right along the side of my greens. So the mid-tones. So really, if you can, try to organize your pastels as best as you can, because it really does help when you're choosing. How's everyone doing? Are we ready to start? Okay.
Or do you want to, like, does anybody need to send a picture of their pastels over? And if you are doing this, is there anybody who's not using pastels who might be doing this in black and white? Those
Oh,
are good things to know too.
okay.
So I assume everybody is working in pastels today.
I'm working in acrylic.
Acrylic, okay. But you can organize your palette and your colors. We're not so worried about you. All right, great. If
Okay.
anybody just as a sideline, if anybody wanted to do this in black and white, Marie is always, and I will always provide a black and white version. So you could do this in charcoal if you wanted to, or even pencil. So go ahead, Marie, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's, and
Kyoko just sent hers over, so take a look.
Yeah.
At the WhatsApp thread.
great. Those look great. That's exactly what we want. Don't
Yes.
be worried. I mean, the underpainting, you know, we're gonna put down the colors. You're gonna see why I'm choosing which color for which area. It's gonna make sense. And that's why flipping that picture to the black and white really helps when you're starting out, because you can see the definition. This is a little trickier today, I will admit. So I haven't really painted this. So I'm going to be working through this along with you. So great, Emma, that looks great. Perfect. Yep, good job, Lisa. Okay. So one thing, when I sent over that drawing to you, my sketch, I really kind of made it simple. We want to think simple shapes. Simple, simple. We're not doing detail at all. Our brain wants to paint every branch. Our brain wants to paint every leaf. Right now, we're just looking at values. That's it, just lights and darks. So I'm going to switch cameras and we're just going to sketch. I'm going to sketch this and then I'll stop.
Nice.
And so you can watch me as I sketch and then do your piece, or you can sketch along with me. It's up to you.
You're sketching it with hard pastels or with
Yep,
what?
with the pastels we just picked for our underpainting.
But she said, are they hard or soft, Marie? Could be either.
Yeah. I'm just
Okay.
using, here's my 4 that I showed you, and I'm going to use my, it's like a mid-tone new pastel. I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to use this.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Okay. So for whatever reason, my printer like cut off my grass, but it's no big deal. I'll put it in. One thing when I was looking at this picture that I liked, and I will draw on my picture with a marker just so you can see it. I kind of I see that there's a tree coming back here in the background. I guess that pen's not going to work, is it? Right here. And it actually cuts, the grass actually cuts into the back and then it kind of comes out. And so I want to emphasize that because that pushes this piece, this block
Back.
back. And it's
Do you
not
guys,
fighting.
do you guys get that? Do you guys get what she's saying by that? So she's creating, it's literally, you're using the space, and in a landscape, sorry, Marie, I'm going to interject
No, you're
here
fine.
just a little bit. In a landscape, when you want to show something going back, you're going up and down the paper, right? So the sky is at the top. That's the furthest back. The grass and it's another planes are kind of further up the paper. So that little spot is like a plane that's pushed back. So an
Yes.
important one. Excellent. Marie,
Yes.
can you use a pastel, a light pastel on that sketch so we can see it better?
Yeah.
Something tough to see the, so like a
Yeah.
yellow or something like that on where you
Is
have
this-
that.
is
Yeah,
that
that's
better?
great. Perfect.
Okay.
You guys can
So,
see that? Perfect.
and then it kind of comes down, and that's the idea. And then I'm just looking at the shape of this tree, right? Just shapes. And I kind of liked this tree back here, so I kept it. And here's another tree, right?
Look at how simple her shapes are, you guys.
And that's it.
Like
So we've got some
Yeah.
shrubbery here, and then, you know, our plane down here. So that's what I'm talking about. And if you want, print out your pictures and do this. I highly suggest it. I did it on my toned paper that I sent over for you, because initially, like I said, when I saw this picture, I was like, oh, my brain wants to go to every detail. And it's like, no, 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 no. Simple shapes. What am I doing? What's going in the distance? What's coming forward?
What about the trees in the distance to the left? You giving them up?
These,
Yes.
I may add them in later.
Okay.
It might be something that I decide at this. And good question. That's so as artists, we get to, and that brings up a really good question, because we get to have the artistic right to use this picture as a guide. We don't want to necessarily copy it, but we want to create something that is visually interesting. And how do we do that? So,
So it's not always a literal copy. Your
Yeah.
painting and your drawings are not literal copies. You're making decisions about what to include and what not to include. And in a photo like this, which is actually not ideal for painting,
yeah.
because there's not enough contrast in it, you have to make to make this work. You have to make decisions to push value and contrast. Where is your area of interest? So this is what Marie, this is what's it's interesting for Marie. You're going to be diverging from the photo, and she's telling you how she does and why she does. So ultimately, that's the decision that you're making too. That's the decision you guys are going to be making too. But we're giving you permission.
And and just so you know, this isn't easy. This takes time. I still deal and work through this. So be easy on yourself, meaning that's okay if you copy pictures of yours when you start out. That's okay. You're learning the process. You're learning the values. Don't stress yourself out every picture that you have to alter, because some are just great compositionally, and that's fine. But just know that you do have the right to kind of add or take out things. And so just keep that in the back of your mind as you're looking at pictures. But don't stress yourself out too much, because I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and it can be a little overwhelming. So just, we're just going to take this easy and walk through it. And you have this video to look at too, to reference later, which I highly suggest. So we're going to get started. I'm just going to use my hard pastel to kind of sketch out what I have here. So again, my grass is kind of cut off, but I'm not going to bring the plane of my grass, my field, up to the center. We already know that the rule of thirds.
Do we all know the rule of thirds? Does
No.
everybody know the rule of thirds? Please repeat the rule of thirds.
So the rule of thirds is like, we want to make sure that we don't have the center, the focal up here into the center. We don't want to have it everything laying into the center. We want to have it here, here, and here. And this is why we grid it.
So basically, you guys, what another way of saying this is to say that your horizon line should never go across the center of your painting.
No.
Your horizon line, right? Your horizon line. The horizon line is where the sun, the sky meets the ground, right? There is a natural horizon, which is following the trees, and there's kind of the horizon, what they call the eye level horizon, where the sky meets the ground. That horizon line should never be in the center. It should be either above or below your center line. So because it's a very static, it's too static if it's right in the center. So if that is actually, if you're copying a picture and you can see from the picture that the horizon line is right at the center, move it down or move it up. Depending on down if you want to emphasize the sky, and up if you want to emphasize the ground.
Yes, exactly. And thinking where your focal point's going to be too. So we're going to go in and put our ground, and I'm thinking, okay, this is where the first plane's kind of hitting here, and we're going to kind of come back a little bit. And we've got that distance, these trees, distant shrubs. This is the line I'm looking at right here. And I'm going to just kind of come across. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is kind of like our roadmap. Okay, I've got my tree and kind of just thinking shape-wise.
For those of you who are real beginners, notice how she is really sketching in literally those shapes that she drew in white.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty simple. Like it feels like we should anyway, feels it's not as hard as it looks. It's really actually that simple in the beginning.
So there's that. Now I'm going to go to my light. This is like that peachy color. And so I'm looking, okay, what is my lightest lights? Well, usually that's my sky. So I'm going to just go right in. I'm going to leave a little bit. You see this area right here? We know that there's a tree behind this tree. So I'm going to leave that out of where my sky, and I know I'm going to come in with a different color. So for right now, I'm just kind of thinking, where's my sky? And I'm almost painting the negative shape, looking at the negative shape. And we're just kind of laying that in. One thing if we do decide to add these trees in, right now, if I were to put it in, we'd cover it up. And we want them muted. So that's why we're not putting them in right now. You can do it towards the end, and I'll show you why. Okay, so that looks pretty good for our sky. Okay, now I'm looking at my darks. So I'm going to use my dark red, almost like a maroon. Okay. So see some darks over here. Not pressing too hard, but there is some dark over here. Now you're probably wondering, why are we putting dark when we talked about light, dull colors? Okay, so if you are, good job. What we're trying to do is build up our layers. So we know that to make it dynamic is meaning we want layers of color shining through. And this is why we are doing our underpainting. We're going to want some of this shining through. It won't be super dark, but it's going to help us layer on top. So we're going to add some of that dark off to the side here. We know that there's a little tree hiding out back behind there. And maybe a little bit down in here.
That's trouble. Come here, trouble. Come here, trouble.
And maybe a little bit down in there. Okay. And now we're going to our other mid-tone, which is kind of like an orangey red. And I'm going to
Really
put in those.
pretty already. I like the.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I love the grasses. That's going to be the fun part. And I'm taking my pastel. And this is something to also remind yourself. We're painting what we're painting. These are grasses. So I'm taking from that bank, that grass edge, and I'm pulling up lightly, pulling up lightly. If I were to just to go like this, it wouldn't work when we did our underpainting. It would just be clumpy. And we don't want it clumpy. So just always keep that in mind. We're just kind of coming up with like grass. Just little bits.
Is anybody surprised that Marie has picked all reds and oranges for this underpainting? Is that surprising to anyone? If you're not, if you have a question about it, let us know. If it makes sense to you, we'll just carry on.
Yes, and that's a good question too. So you're probably wondering, why am I not coloring in these trees? Well,
Green.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I know that I'm going to have quite a bit of pigment when I wet with the alcohol. Now, if you're doing a dry rub and not using alcohol, then you might want to add a little bit more of this lightness in here. But I know that I'm going to have pigment on my brush, and so I'm going to fill in these voids because I don't want them too dark. So I'm going to bring some of the sky down into the grass area. So I'm going to kind of just, again, dragging it horizontally. And I kind of decided that I wanted to do a cast shadow to kind of lead the viewer up into the tree. And so I'm going to use a little bit of my dark, kind of just bring it down a little bit like that. Maybe a little bit of this orange, not a whole lot. And that's about it. That's it for our underpainting, laying it in. So
let's take Marie will stop here and
Yep.
you guys work on that and send us pictures.
yes,
See what
send
that's at.
pictures. I'm going to take a picture of mine for you.
That's great, Marie. Really fun.
Yeah. It's going to be so much fun when we get to paint it. That's what I love
Yes.
too.
And you notice she's using the word paint, even though we're using pastel sticks. And that is because pastel sticks are paint. That's
Yes.
what they are. They aren't chalk. They are actually physical paint pigment that is mixed with gum and a couple of other binders that make them into, sort of dried chalk sticks dried sticks that you can apply, but they are pure paint. So you are painting. Even if you're not using a brush, you're painting.
Yes. And I love it. This is the fun part, and the part we want to take our time on too. So, but yes, send over your pieces.
Jean just sent hers over.
Okay. Perfect.
Jean, are you doing wet or dry on this?
I'm gonna do wet.
Okay, cool. Does anybody understand what we mean by the difference between wet and dry? Let us know if you don't understand that and we will explain it.
No, I don't understand.
Okay, so can you explain wet and dry, Marie, just to her really quickly?
Yes. So the difference between wet and dry is that I'm actually using the isopropyl alcohol for, I'm going to wet the pigment on my sanded paper.
Nice.
And
Lisa
it's
B.
going to dissolve that pigment into my sanded paper versus using what I like to use for my blending is a pipe insulation foam. And it comes on these little rolls I get at the hardware store. And I probably need to get more, but they have like this little opening that really, it's wonderful. And it saves my fingers. And I just,
Kyoko, your darks need to be darker.
so.
Emma, great.
Oh, these are going to look great.
So the difference between wet and dry is that if
Ouch.
you're doing a wet painting, you are gonna fix your base with either isopropyl alcohol or pastel spray fixative, if that's what you've got, which means that your bottom layer is not gonna mix with your top layer. So you have a little bit more flexibility in popping your lights. If you are working dry, that means you are not fixed, like Sandra is doing, because she's working on a paper that does not take wet. You use less pigment on the base because your pigment, or you'll have to scrape it off with a toothbrush, because the pigment will mix with the top layers and make more mud. So you have more dangers of making mud. So that's the difference. You can do it either way. Linda, do you think Linda needs to darken?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Darken the darkest areas, Linda.
Yep. If you can add a little bit more dark, I know it's kind of challenging on the paper. So.
By the way, Lisa B, that's beautiful. Love that sketch.
These are so fun.
Yeah, great.
Good job.
So
Love
don't
it.
be afraid of darks, you guys. I know it's like easy to be afraid of darks. Kyoko sent hers
There you
back.
go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh, Sandra.
Okay.
And do you see how Sandra, I'm sorry, Maria, I keep jumping in here, but
No,
do you
you're
see how
fine.
Sandra has like scrubbed in her, so she has less pigment sitting on top. She's done a little bit more of a scrubbing in of her darks so
Mhm.
that when she puts her lights on top, like they won't mix with so much of that extra dust. Very nice, Sandra. That's a great way to handle the dry if you're working
Yeah.
dry.
And I love the colors.
Uh-huh. Super, super.
And this is the fun part. So it looks like everyone's about ready. For those who are doing the wet underpainting, we're going to go ahead and start in. So I'm
you're
gonna
either
pour-
going to use a brush with isopropyl alcohol or you're going to spray.
Yep. And I actually have, a lot of times with the trees, I do spray. Probably more in my paintings, even if it's a dry underpainting. Why? Because it gives the illusion of texture, and it solidifies everything on that page. So sometimes on the tooth, if I've built up too much and I really need to get some more lights to show up on my trees, I'll spray it. I'll spray it with a fixative, a workable fixative. It's great. Just a little bit. It will darken it. So that's another class that we can practice with workable fixative and see what it does. It's kind of fun. So for today's purpose, we're going to do our alcohol wash.
Did you have a question? Did you have a question? Who had a question?
Yeah. Does hairspray work?
Yeah. Sure will. All right, I'm going to get a brush here.
Hey,
For those of us
Sandra.
not doing the wash, what
What's
should
that?
we do? For those of us not doing the wash, what should we do?
You can just watch right now,
Okay.
or Sandra, you can think about some colors that you want to pick out. But that's
For
going
your
to be our
top
next
layers.
step.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there's nothing I can need to do to replace it.
Yeah.
You can just play around. Yeah. Think about
Start
what
picking
colors.
your palettes. Start
Yeah.
picking your palette colors and watch. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so here we go.
Useful.
So one thing to
Linda, that's
remember,
better.
when we're doing our underpainting, we start with the lightest of the lights. Why? Because it muddies up our rubbing alcohol and our brush, and we want to keep it as clean as possible. So take your time on this piece of it, you know.
She's just dipping
Paint.
her brush right in the rubbing alcohol. She's got a
Yes.
little glass container with the rubbing alcohol in it.
Just like this,
Yeah,
and I'm
those
dipping it
clay
in.
jars are really perfect
They are.
for
And then
that
I just-
kind of thing.
I just kind of get the excess out. Right now, I don't really want drips. Drips are kind of fun. We get to play around with them, and I'll show you what that is maybe in a different class. But today, take your time as you're doing this. You know, don't paint like a house painter where you're just going straight across, going as fast as possible. Paint like you're painting the tree.
So see how her brush is going in the direction of the tree, even on this base layer?
Yep.
Don't paint like a
So-
house painter. I'm gonna remember that.
Yes. Yes.
That's a key.
We are artists and we're painting. This is what we're doing. We're literally turning this into a pigment to its original form. So, you know, take your time and make it what you want. The more we take our time on our underpainting, the less work we have to do in the end. The
That's
less
good, Natalia.
pastels. Yes.
While you're going ahead, Marie, I'm taking a look at the people who are continuing to send in.
I was going
If
to
you
say,
want, I'm doing that because I'm here. Eventually, Marie will be doing this by herself. So
yes,
if you want her attention, say, Marie, is this right?
yes, please.
Good. It's easy to get out of the zone of it's hard to get out of it's easy to like, we don't want you guys to be left behind, I guess is the point. So
Exactly. No, and I'm learning this piece of it too. So, so I'm just kind of filling this in. Like I said, I had enough pigment there. I knew that I didn't need to fill in the tree because we don't want too much pigment filling up the tooth of our paper. So again, I'm just coming down into the lightest the parts here. I kind of like to use an angle brush. So this is an angle brush, if you can see. I find it really helps with landscape paintings. I can get into places a little bit more and just seems to work better for me. And you can use bigger sizes if you want to. Come back here. One thing with rubbing alcohol, if you feel like you've got too much pigment in an area, you can come back in and just lift it up. You can just lift that pigment up if you think that you've got too much. So it is nice with that aspect too. Okay. Let's see here. So I'm going to come over here to my trees. Going up and down, kind of showing where the trunk is. This is our road map. I know I've got another tree right in here, kind of going at an angle, right?
oh, nice brushwork.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
So even at this stage, look at how
Yeah.
she's employing her brushwork and the wet to create extra marks.
I
Nice.
love it.
I hadn't really, yeah, it is really beautiful, isn't it, Diana?
Yeah.
Diana can do something similar if she wants to with her acrylic paint. Actually, that's what's
I'm
nice.
trying to. I'm trying to.
Are you
learn
following
it.
along? Awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I am.
Marie's going to finish this part. So I want you guys not to feel rushed. She's going to finish this part, then she's
Yes.
going to stop. And then you can either be working along with her or watching her and then trying it yourself. Don't feel like you have to rush through this process. We are always willing to stay a couple extra minutes if we think that will help.
Yeah,
in the
and
process, but
we're taking our time. This, like I said, this is taking my brush at the very bottom again, going in an upward swoop, just like I was with my pastel, because this is grass. We want to go up and create those really
oh, it's
pretty
so
grass.
pretty. Look how pretty it is already. Notice how often she's going back in and cleaning out her brush.
Yes.
So cleaning her brush between working on the dark layers and working on the medium and the light layers, so that there's not too much muddy dark getting into her values.
And I know I've got some distant shrubbery over here. We take some of that pigment over here and kind of just to remind myself that I've got some stuff in the distance.
I'm really
Marie,
glad you picked this, Marie. Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, I have a question. You are not adding any pigment at this moment, right? The pigment that you're picking up and kind of moving around is the one that was already on the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
did you see her pick up any pigment?
No.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
thought, maybe outside of the camera there was something hidden happening.
Right.
I
So
know.
she is not just dipping. Great question.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out
It's
how that would
amazing.
happen.
It's amazing how much pigment. That's why you don't need a lot.
That's great,
Uh,
Linda. I love it.
I know it's true.
Because the
I'm just-
pigment would need to be applied, right? So you were wondering, does she have a little cache of pigment on a palette somewhere that she's picking up? Great
Yeah.
question. Since we can't always show you our palette, she's just going right into the rubbing alcohol. All of that pigment. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Particularly
So-
dark pigments tend to cover really intensely.
They do. They do. And I'm kind of coming back in and just remembering, reestablishing here. Okay, here's my bank, and pushing that back. And then I've got my cast shadow. Okay. And then we'll come over here. Just wet this. Coming kind of back up into them, just softening these edges so they're not super hard edges, soft edges. I know that's something Leah's been really going through, talking about. And I know I'm taking my time, just taking my time. I know that the sun is over here, so I'm also thinking about light. Okay.
Okay, Kyoko, she'll stop in a second. And what, are you starting to apply did you just apply the fixative, Kyoko? Okay, anyway. Hold
Sorry, I
off on
don't-
sending
I
your
don't
work.
have- So I did the hairspray.
Okay, so hold off on Marie will take a look, guys, but wait just a minute to send your stuff in until she
Yeah.
has time to look at it. It's hard to sort out. Is that done, Marie?
The what?
Is that done?
I think so for now.
Okay, so
Um,
now is the time to try this if you haven't tried it already. Send in your pictures. Marie's about to send a picture across. Kyoko has actually sent hers in, so you may want to take a
Oh.
look at it.
Okay. Are you doing, you're doing dry?
She did hairspray.
Oh,
Or she did
hairspray, okay.
spray, fixative.
Okay,
She did spray.
Okay.
Is there anything she can improve?
Yeah,
Can she add
so,
more?
so one thing to keep in mind is your edges. If you go and spray it, it's gonna be fixed. And so, which is fine. It's just try to soften those edges. So rubbing them a little bit where the dark and the sky, your darkest dark and your lightest lights kind of meet to soften those edges. And so, but you're getting the concept, right? You're seeing the darks and the lights, and that's what we want today. So,
And to be really fair, Kyoko's probably had 4 art lessons in her whole
Yeah.
life. So she's doing awesome.
Yeah,
Considering this
amazing.
is all new, right? All new for her.
I don't know.
You're
I don't
doing
know
great.
what I'm doing.
That's good. Keep it that way. You're doing great. You're doing great. Look at some of the soft edges that Marie has blended in. Kyoko, you might try adding a few of those lines. So Sandra, you could probably add a little bit of that detail in the dry, like
So
those sort of dark spiky lines, right, that she's got for some of the trees.
I've done that
Branches.
kind of.
Great. That's right. I assumed you would, but I just wanted to give you the go ahead on that. Anyway, send stuff in, guys, as you're
It
doing
still
this.
looks ugly.
Send it in so Marie can help you.
yes. Nice. Natalia, are you doing dry or wet?
A hairspray only.
The hairspray? Oh, okay. So if you're gonna do the hairspray technique, you might want to try using a blending tool like your finger or maybe something like this before you spray to kind of just get the pigment pushed into the sanded paper a little bit more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good. You're paying attention to values. That's what we're doing today. Did you add more, Sandra?
It's coming.
Yeah. I like that light purple that you put in the trees.
Because I needed something light.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So I've added some branches
Yeah. Okay, great.
just to give me a guide.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So thinking about like your cast shadow and where you put it down on the ground, just remember that when we move back into where your sun and where your light is, having it at an angle, right? That's something to think about. That looks good.
I wasn't sure at which angle to put it.
Okay, good question. So that's why we need to think about where our light source is coming from and where we kind of think at this time of day, right? So we're thinking, well, where's the sun? Where's the light? It's probably coming from the left. I can just tell on the trees, there's lighter light sources on the left-hand side versus the right. And so it makes sense that our shadow is kind of coming off to the right at an angle. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Okay, we got another picture coming through. All right,
That looks
that looks
good.
great. Very nice. This is fun. So this, I mean, we're going to start now looking at our palette of how are we going to pick our colors? What are we going to do?
Is that mine you were looking at? Saying it?
Yeah, Lisa?
No, Jean.
Oh, Jean. Oh, I hadn't got yours yet.
Oh, okay.
Or I don't see it yet. Did you send it? Yes, okay, good job. Good job, Kyoko, that looks better. And you can bring, Kyoko, some of that darker up into the middle of your tree to kind of, right now it kind of looks like a wine glass, but maybe if you want to bring some of that darker or mid-tones up into your tree just to kind of give you an idea of where the trunk and the branches are. I'd do that. Oh, okay, yeah, great,
That's
Jeannie.
nice.
I like it. Very nice. Yes, I agree, but it looks a lot better, Linda. Jeannie, that looks great. Really good job paying attention to the darks, the midtones, and the lights. I love it.
Okay, it's not too messy?
No, it's not. And don't worry. Don't worry about being messy because this is our base. We're going to build right over it. And so don't worry.
The messier the
see.
better.
I think so. I like it. I like to have little bits of speck and fun color shining through, and it makes it more interesting to me. But Linda, that's good. I think you've done a really good job in what you have to make it darker. So looks really good. Does anyone have any questions right now before we move to the next step?
Are we going to have the trunks too now? The trunks. Are
Yeah,
we
you
putting
can.
the trunks too?
Yeah, you can put those in, Kyoko. I think it would help for you. Yeah, it's kind of like our little roadmap, I call it, just to kind of remind you, you know, our focal point. Always thinking about what is our focal point? What are we focusing on? Where do we want the viewer's eye to go?
But just not all of it, Kyoko. So just the sort of biggest shapes that you can see. That's probably the best way.
Yeah.
It's easy to get overkill.
Yes. Exactly. Okay.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh. Ouch.
Is that the kitty cat?
She's being kind of bratty. Hermes is like totally circling the computer all the time, you guys. I have to bat him off every time. So you may see him. If you're in a mood for entertainment, jump up here. He is very likely on my lap or trying to
I know.
knock
Let
us
him jump
offline.
up.
Come on, Boo. Come here. Come here, Boo. Yeah, he's just jumping up across, but
Tyler.
I'll go get him.
She might have to go out. Well, my puppy just started in heat, and so she's in diapers right now.
Oof. Oh, look at that. He's just so happy and calm now.
Look at him. Oh.
That's what he wanted.
Here we're not allowed to have unaltered animals unless we have a kennel license.
I can't believe how big he's gotten.
Yeah, he's very large for his age.
He's so cute.
In 1 second, he is about to try and knock the computer offline. 'Cause he's like,
Yeah.
I love this. My mom is like all mine right now.
Yes. They know. They
They
want your
know.
attention.
They're
They're little
like-
stinkers.
They are stinkers.
Oh,
Oh, Kyoko, lovely.
yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
Good job, you guys.
Okay. So moving, let's kind of move through the picture thinking about colors. So process-wise, and I'm going to switch cameras, looking at, oh, wow. I love it, Natalia.
Isn't that neat?
Woo! I love the colors. This is going to be fun. And just so you guys know, as long as your values are right, you can pick whatever colors you want. So just keep that in mind. This is fun. We get to play and practice and choose. So looking at our picture, what colors, what do we want to build from the back to the front? That's what we're thinking. We know this section is going to be lighter and duller than these here, okay? Why? Because these, we're pushing this plane farther back. So I'm thinking like what Sandra said earlier was like blues, I believe, muted blues. So look for some muted blues in your colors. Blues, maybe some purples, because we've got some red in here. That'd be pretty. I've got kind of like a mid-tone muted blue.
Hey, Marie, can you show them a picture of how you organize your pastels?
Oh yeah, I sent it over earlier.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So if you scroll, I can send it again. If you scroll back up.
I'll do it. I'll forward it out. I'll forward it while you
Okay.
talk about it.
So I did
I see it.
kind of, did it come across? Okay.
Yep.
So look at my pastels. This is how, yeah, Kyoko. Okay. So do you have any duller muted colors? They're kind of like a grade down blues.
Look.
If you do.
And one
If
of the
not-
things I just wanted to point out here is that Marie organizes. So Sandra actually asked at the beginning of class,
Yeah.
like, do you organize your colors by grouping or by, by brand or by color? So
Mhm.
Marie is organized, and most pastel artists do that after a time. You have got to organize your pastels by color, so that when you're looking for different blues, you've got different blues. Right? Like you can find all your blues. You can see them in comparison to each other. It's partly about what kind of mark your pastel makes, right? It's partly about, there's dark, it's a soft one or it's a hard one, but it's more about what different variations of blue do I have, right?
Yes.
So I can
Yes.
pull what I need because there's more than one blue, a lot of different ones.
For sure. And again, thinking temperature, is it cooler? Is it going to be a cooler blue? Is it a
Jean's
warmer
got hers.
blue?
What do you think of Jean's? Oh, Jean, you do have some expensive ones starting.
Yeah. Ooh, I love pastels. All right. So yeah, those are good. Good colors.
Does anybody else want to send a picture over before Marie gets going? So that you can she can check your colors. See how
Yes,
it's going.
and I kind of just been throwing out some colors here, and I'll take a picture here real quick of what I have. Hopefully it comes across with good lighting. Yes, so Lisa, that top stick, see how it's grayed and muted? That's perfect for what you want in the distance. Yep. And that's okay. I mean, you can have the bright, you can mix colors too, right? We can mix those colors to create what we want. And I have a scratch piece that's right below my painting, and that's what I do a lot of my mixing on. Taking one color, put it on, see if I can get that gray down hue. Remember, like if you have a bright green and you need to dull it down, use this complementary color. Oh, okay, I've got reds. Pull some reds on it. Same idea, same process. There you go. So Kyoko, the one from like the gray color, that's going to be perfect. You can lay down some light colors and then scumble, and I'll show you what I mean by scumbling, but perfect. Okay, so here we go. Has everyone sent over their palette? Sandra, did you send over what you have? Oh.
No,
I love it,
can't
Natalia.
right now, but I tend not to do that anyway. I like to choose the color each time.
As you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I have found that this is, you know, you need to work through the process that works best for you. I tend to get in the flow, and that's Leah's been helping me slow down. I go fast, and so, you know, if that helps. Okay, let's get started. So I'm gonna start with maybe this blue. The light's changing outside, so hopefully you can see. Oh, let me switch cameras, sorry. And I might need to move this closer for you. So you can see if that's better. So I'm just putting in just little bits of this gray blue light, just light, because I kind of want the underpainting to still show through. I'm kind of thinking about like, where else do I want it? There's some over in this area. Just lightly. This is a soft pastel, so I can put a lot of pigment down. I just want to kind of come over it. And this is a good test for me to kind of slow down too. Whenever I'm using a color, I'm always thinking, where else can I put this color at? I might put some over here. Maybe a little bit down in here. Let's see. I'm testing my colors down here on the bottom just to see. That's what I want. Sometimes it's a mix of colors. And just kind of putting in these distant trees. Very light touch. Let's see. I use some, this is kind of like a brighter blue. I'm just going to kind of bring it over a little bit in the darker areas. Maybe bring a little bit down in here.
Can you guys see the type of blue she's using? I'm sorry, I walked away for a second, so I don't know if you talked about it. Can you see that this is not a vibrant, bright blue? It's a more muted blue.
Yeah.
It's a cooler blue and it's a grayer blue. It's a good to pay attention to.
Okay.
I know she told you why she's doing it. So
sometimes, you know, it's, you put it on, you're like, this, it's just not reading right. Right now, you know, you're kind of just trying to figure out, what do I need? You got to start somewhere.
And I feel like, here's the other thing. Can I jump in since I'm seeing this? You guys aren't, I'm not going to be on these classes forever, so you're not going to have to deal with me doing this forever. But for now, what I can see is that our tendency is to want to go to the brightest colors and use them everywhere. And what you start to learn as an artist is that not every part of your canvas can be equally bright, because it'll confuse the viewer of where to look. It'll confuse, there'll be competing focal points. So starting with these dark, more muted colors is really going to push your brights, but that's not intellectually something we think about. What we think about is we want to just go to the brightest colors, slap them all on, and hope for the best. But these darks, these neutrals are going to set the stage for your brights.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. I'm putting in the darkest of the darks, but I'm also thinking layering. As I'm layering, I'm thinking, what do I want to have pop through? And I'm also thinking light. Is it warm or cool? Is it a warmer muted color or a cooler muted color? So like I have over on this side, I'm thinking, okay, it's more red. And I'm thinking I need a muted shaded color. So I'm thinking muted, probably like a pink, a muted mid-tone pink, something like this. And so I'm gonna put that lightly. We might be at a point where we need to add our sky in, because that's another piece of it, right? Kind of need to get an idea of where things, because it kind of starts to float our grasses and our trees. And so I think I'm going to move into the sky. What color do we choose? Well, I mean, it's blue, it's daytime, it's sunny. We're a little bit darker to the top, moving down into a lighter value of blues. So I'm going to start with my darker and then blend to my lighter. I'm looking at negative shapes. What are those? These areas on the side, these negative shapes.
The shapes that are not the trees?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, how am I going to carve into these trees with my sky now? Okay, so let's start with some blue. Just light touch.
Watch how she's laying that down. Not like a house painter.
Right. I'm kind of just taking my pastel and tapping, because those are the negative shapes, right, from the sky shining through the tree. Make the pastel do the work. Okay. I'm gonna do lighter color here. There's a purpley. Kind of blend
nice. Ooh. Notice how nicely that blue sits on top of that kind of light orange.
Mm-hmm.
That is that's like using complementary colors to pop something forward. Even though one is going on top of the other, they're not blending.
Okay. And then I'm going to get even a lighter blue as we're coming down the sky. Kind of just lightly blend. And now I'm looking at my reference photo and I'm looking at, okay, what's the shapes?
So see how she's working the edge of the sky into the trees? So instead of, you go ahead and just, I'm going to say what you're doing, Marie, you focus on doing it. So notice that she's not drawing every leaf. She's focusing on the area where one edge meets another. And in this particular case, the edge is very dramatic because it's much lighter, right? So the sky is much lighter than the trees. She's only working on detail where the light meets the dark. She is not painting every leaf. She doesn't have to. If you do, it looks weird. And by the way, you can't paint every leaf anyway.
No. And
very nice. So this is what we call working the edges.
And I'll take a picture here if people can send in what they have at this point. That way you can kind of see. One thing that you can do, oh, I didn't take it in. One thing that you can do, like what Leah was talking about, is how can we suggest, because that's what we're doing. How do we suggest and make it easy for the viewer to know this is a tree? Well, one is the shape of it. Oops, somehow I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, one thing is towards the end of our painting, we may just add a few little branches, a few little places of the foliage. And what your brain does, what your eyes and the viewer does is they put it all together and say, oh, that's a tree. So it's not about the leaf everywhere. Just indicate a little bit at the end.
Right. And when you're making your shapes, you're not just doing leaf, 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 leaf,
right,
like little soldiers. You're actually looking at the shape of the gaps.
That's right.
Where those edges meet. So you're trying to pay, so you have to pay close attention. So you can't make it up. If you make it up, you'll turn it into a pattern, which will look stiff and weird.
So what we're talking about is, look, you can see right here. Here's the patches of the light, a patch of the light.
Yeah.
You see the patches of the
Great.
light. Here's the dark. Here's the light. So when we come in, we're going to just add just bits to indicate the light. And we're making the viewer say, oh, okay, here's the light. Here's the shadow. So if you want, go on your picture and circle those areas. Okay, here's some light. Here's some light. I see some lighter areas here, lighter areas here. It helps if you break it down into these sections so it doesn't become so overwhelming. Okay, and I know people are sending in stuff, so let me
take a look. Good job.
Yeah.
But that was a good demo, Marie. I think that was important to talk about.
Yeah, I think so too, because it is, I am guilty of it. I want to paint every detail.
Okay, you got some help for Kyoko there?
Yeah.
So Kyoko, you're going to need to blend your sky a little bit more.
Yes, blend your sky and then see where you're carving down into the trees and see how those distances, those lines are equal. Turn your pastel on its side instead. So what I mean is this way, and do this and move along.
Jean, beautiful blending in your sky. Wait till you see this.
Oh, wow. See how that underpainting, see how that warm underpainting is coming through, and it just makes it so much vibrant.
Beautiful.
Where if you were just to not do that,
right,
it wouldn't be as vibrant. That's beautiful.
For those of you who are working on painting, right, with the paintbrush, Look at what Jean did to her sky. There's a this is exactly what we were trying to do with the paintbrush this week. There's a transition from darker to lighter, but there's, Marie's getting rid of hers now so you can see it. There's a transition, but you don't see a solid line.
Yep.
It's just, there's no straight line. So to do that, you have to blend. You have to push light up into dark. You have to soften the edges. What really happens is you kind of create this mid-tone in between light and dark, this kind of soft, scumbly area. So that's part of what we're working on here. And then you can see she's now kind of taking that, bringing in those back trees. Look how light and gray they are, but blue as well.
And that's the thing. That's exactly what you do, working back and forth, back and forth.
Beautiful.
You put in the sky, then the trees. Oh, I love it. Good job. Where's everyone else at? Let me see.
Marie, this is thank you so much for walking us through this. This is a great subject to practice with. So fun.
I was a little hesitant, Leah, because I was like, oh, geez, how am I going to tackle this? And
is this one of your photos or from the?
No, it's from the site with the free reference. Yeah.
Oh, Lisa B, let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What do you
Yes,
think?
I love the sky. Wow.
Yeah. So Sandra, the line is a little hard on your sky still between the light and the dark. So blend that out. But the colors are really starting to sing.
Yep. Boy.
It looks like Arizona where I'm from right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I noticed you know what I was telling somebody else after last week's landscape? What I was noticing was that the people in Europe, like Marie, what you did last week was a very classic Northwest scene. The forest is kind of overwhelming. And I noticed that the Europeans automatically sort of changed the shape of the trees a little bit and the spacing, which totally is valid because that's more so what we're used to is this sort of denseness of trees that you can't even really see, out. And it's interesting to see how people adjust based on their concept of forest, which is completely valid. It's completely valid. It's just interesting to see how different our ideas about, what we see when we see a forest, what that is.
I think it's true. What, for Lisa being in Arizona and painting those landscapes, you're going to have more richer, redder undertones, right?
Fortunately,
wow.
She's not in Linda, that's beautiful. Fortunately, she's not in Arizona yet, although maybe.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you were.
I'm from
Arizona.
She's from there.
From Arizona. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And anticipating that she might have to go. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Very nice, Linda. See how much it's changing? When that sky came in, look how it pushed your tree forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you,
there,
I like it better.
yeah. And you know what? When you get to that point, sometimes you just need to start putting in your sky and you need to put in the pieces in the foreground because you need relationships. You need to see where things are sitting in terms of each other. So I mean, I started kind of feeling that too. It was like, okay, I need to put some sky to give myself a base of working where I need to go.
Essentially, what you're doing is the sky is background. Even though it's a subject matter, it's background, right? Because our focus is really on the trees. But you need to get that background in, I'd say, at about the halfway point. So that your you can start to see what I need to do to everything else. So, and you'll see that the sky does a lot of, adding in the background does a lot of finishing for you.
What color is this and what are you doing?
This is just, I'm finishing my sky and it's just the light blue. I kind of stopped and I hadn't finished my sky yet.
So and while you're working on that, Marie, I'll give you I'll talk to you a little bit about that, Sandra, what's happening. What's often happening with the landscape is that no matter what time of day it is, the top of the the farther you get up, right, which in our case is the top of the canvas, the darker the sky gets. As the sky comes close, and particularly in a daylight scene like this, and as the sky comes close to the horizon, the light gets lighter and a little bit yellower, actually. Like often there's a slight yellow because it's the sun bouncing, but it certainly gets lighter. It gets lighter as you get closer to the horizon line. So in this case, the horizon line is those trees, right? So there is a kind of shifting gradually from darker to lighter that happens. You don't have to see it to know that it's there, but once you know that it's there, you'll start to see it. If you look at any landscape painting, they all do it. So as you get towards the edge, it gets a little bit lighter. I will often add a little bit of yellow blended in if it's a sunny day, because the sun is bouncing down and kind of bouncing off the mountains or the trees or wherever you are. And there's a slight little halo glow, yellowy halo glow. Oh.
So in my tree right here, I did not put my lightest of my lights because, well, it would be too bright, okay? And it would look like Christmas tree lights, actually. We don't want that. We don't want to decorate our tree with lights in that respect. We want it to be a little bit darker, and these sky holes need to be
the sky holes. Yes.
The sky holes, they really need to be more of the darker color, and you're going to see why, because then it would be fighting with our lightest lights that we're going to put on the top. So I just want to point that out. When you're putting in these sky holes into your trees and you're carving that negative space, even though it's down here where it's lighter in our picture, we really need to do a shade or two darker.
Right. And by the way, sky hole is an actual landscape term.
It is.
The sky holes are those little bits of glimpse of sky that we can see through the middle of a tree branches. You're not going to paint every one. You're going to pick like 2 or 3 of the largest and add them in. Very often there's one that will help define the trunk. Yeah, go ahead and point them out, Marie.
So what I want to say, what I do that kind of seems to help me, because it gets a little overwhelming when you've got all these branches,
all these sky holes,
and you're like, how do I do this? How do I do that? So squint and look. Yes. And what it does is it creates these spaces. So you see one here, you see one here, and typically you're going to have a lot more sky holes along the edge of your trunk. Okay. Yeah. So look at that, squint, just shapes here and there, just making marks. You see, look, oh, the sky kind of carves into the side here. We can indicate that here in a little bit as we're carving along the edge.
And just to be clear, the sky hole is the little bit of sky you see within the tree. It is not like the shape of the sky around the edge of the tree. That's why it's a sky hole. It's a little hole of sky. And it does not get added until fairly late in the process.
Yes.
Because otherwise you emphasize it, you make them too big, you spend too much time on them. Remember, less is more with sky holes. They're important, but they aren't, you want to be careful not to add them in too soon.
Yep. Agreed.
Sky holes. I remember thinking that was the funniest thing. When I started doing landscape painting, I thought that was the funniest term I'd ever heard.
I know, but it is.
But it's effective.
It is, and it makes it more believable, and it kind of gives you that space that you need, right? That spatial value of
when you're wondering about what to do and what not to do. It helps you kind of focus on the areas that you need to focus on. Detail. Yes. Sky holes.
The sky
holes are like salt.
Mm-hmm.
Too much will ruin a meal. Just enough is what you need to have a feeling of health and also deliciousness.
Absolutely.
Unless you're my boyfriend and then you salt the hell out of everything.
Oh, yes. Even when you tell them that you've already salted it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I never salted enough.
Okay, so let's see, Kyoko. I see a picture here.
Oh yeah, nice. I like how you went in and did your darker sky holes. Good job.
Yes, yes, great. Okay, so Kyoko, on to the left-hand side, go ahead and start putting in some lighter colors on that tree if you want.
And maybe some blues. Does she have the blues in her darks? The dark
Yeah,
blues in her darks.
I like to just lightly touch and dab my pastel, not pushing too hard, because they really do put in a lot of pigment. Okay, how are we doing on time?
We're good. We've got about half an hour left, so we're good.
Okay, so I'm going to maybe add just a little bit of that light pink. And
Is that a gray?
Don't even have an underpainting yet.
Yeah.
I don't even have an underpainting.
Well, your underpaintings are a little bit more elaborate than most, so you're right on time. Yeah, that's a gray. Is that what you were asking?
It's very difficult
Sandy?
to tell when you change colors.
Marie, just let them know as you're changing.
Okay.
Yes, because Skype isn't, because Zoom isn't so fantastic with color. Can you stop and take a picture of that, Marie, so they can see it? That's
absolutely.
True. You're right. It's hard.
So I'm just thinking of planes right now. I want this tree to kind of come forward a little bit. I'm pushing this tree a little bit back because of the muted colors, more lighted, muted colors. I don't want, this is going to be kind of my last piece because I want these to be done before I start on this completely. I've added some colors, but ultimately the brightest of the brights are going to lay on this tree. So I'm just kind of building around it, but we can probably start putting some colors down here into the foreground. I'm thinking right now in the picture, I see a lot of ranges of oranges. I'll take a picture. This is what I'm thinking.
Nice.
So with anything, I like to pick 3 to 4 colors. A tree, 3 to 4 colors of values. For grasses, 3 to 4 colors of greens. I like layering colors. I think it adds an interest and creates a really beautiful vibrancy for the painting. So I'm thinking down here we've got a really beautiful red underpainting. So I'm going to take this maroon, this dark, and I'm just going to kind of come at the base and just lightly pull up. Lightly pull up. I don't want to cover my completely, just a little bit. Light color, light dragging. I might put it down here. Kind of need to establish where this tree is, this trunk. I might go back in here and put some dark brown just to, that's a little too dark. Just a little bit here. Maybe into this tree too, just to remind ourselves. Okay. All right, now we're gonna go back into the grass. Okay. So right now I'm just kind of looking at, all right, we've got some darker oranges down on the bottom. Clean off my pastel. Just pulling up. We kind of got some in the back over here too. Just a little touch. Okay. Kind of have some purpley color. Too dark. I'm just thinking about the tops. So this is a light orange, and I'm just kind of putting that right in here. And I'm going to put some more dark right in here, just light. Because I see that in the photo and it's needed. This is a harder peach pastel, and I'm just kind of coming in here and kind of coming up like the grasses, just a little bit more so you can see them. And coming back in with some darker blue at the base, because we know it's still in the distance. You kind of need to ground it a little bit more. It's not just floating.
So, and I want you guys to really notice how all the things I'm talking about with mixing and edges, the paintbrush, charcoal, the pencil, value, all of these things are playing into each other. Like they're all, you should start to feel after a while, there's a continuation of things that really play through every medium. Maria and I were just discussing before class that we were thinking about maybe shifting her to become a painting class in February, but I think we're just going to keep her pastel because we don't have any pastel classes. They're going to give you guys time to adjust. There's a lot of learning that's happening here. While I'm teaching you painting, it's going to be helpful to be able to, for those of you who are interested, to work with the pastels, right? To practice mixing, but not have to worry so much about the brush. So notice how much overlap there is between everything that we're doing everywhere else.
It is.
It's enough really to make your head explode.
And that's the piece of it that I don't want anyone to get too frustrated, overwhelmed, because there is a lot. But
right.
we want to keep it simple. So, and how do we do that? We approach things with the same, why am I doing this? What's my values? What's my light source?
Right. It's not super helpful to talk about your paintings that they are ugly and you don't like them. It's better to think my painting goes through an awkward phase before it completes. My painting has to look simple and blocky before I can start to add in this detail. So to accept a little bit the ugly stage of the painting, I prefer to call it awkward. Think of it as the 8-month-old kitty cat stage of your painting.
Uncontrollable?
Yes, insane. Adorable, but insane. Darling.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
And every painting has to go through this before you can get it to the layer. Okay, so Marie, we've got about 20 minutes left in class. So go ahead and do the finishing touches on that tree. And then quickly, so you guys stop what you're doing and watch what she's doing here. And then she will just look at she'll spend the last bit.
Yeah.
Just looking at what you're doing.
What I want real quick is we do need to put in the grass real fast. So I'll put that in. Thinking distance, lighter, cooler. So bluer.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm just kind of I'm going in a horizontal way. And then
that's a nice, cool greenish blue I see here. So notice when we say things get bluer, everything gets bluer as it gets farther away. That doesn't mean you have to use blue. It means that a lot of different colors have blue in them, and the blue is the emphasis of them, right? So green is obviously a color that has blue in it. Oh, really nice. Look what that does. And blue, I mean, shoot, reds can have blue in them. Can be a little bit bluer. Lots of grays have blue in them. So as you're starting to think about blues, you're not limited to blue. You're limited to a color that has a little blue in it.
Right.
You'll get better at seeing what those are.
Right. And so with grass, I'm kind of coming at a horizontal. I'm just back and forth. But as we come closer, we can go up and down because we're going to be able to see the grasses a little bit more, and it gives it a more interesting texture. And
this is awesome because we're going to be doing this in painting later this month.
Yeah.
So hear what she said there. We're not painting every blade of grass. We're changing our stroke based on how close.
Yeah.
Look at that stroking. Great.
Up and down.
Now we're going to do it we'll learn how to do it with a paintbrush too.
Yep. And so it's just like the grasses up here. So the closer we get, the more of the blades we're going to be able to see. We don't have to paint every blade. We can come back in with a hard pastel and just indicate a little bit more. But right now, we're just coming in. And I just want to think about my picture here.
Great. Coming along, Diana. Coming along. It looks great. We will see you soon.
See you later.
You'll just need to work more. Yes, yes.
I will continue.
We always continue. Exactly.
Yeah.
We play around till we get it right. It's always nice to have Diana when she's doing the lesson, because if she's not working in the same medium, so you can see how this kind of translates.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she's thinking she should have brought her horizon line up a little higher.
Okay. I'm just going to blend this a little bit here. Vertical. Okay, so we got grass in. We'll get to the tree part. So I'm just thinking I'm probably going to want more of kind of like a muted purple on this side, just light. Just a light. We've got that underpainting, which is really pretty. I like it. I might even bring in a little bit of that peachy. clean my.
And what kind of strokes are you making there for the tree?
Just very, very light strokes.
On the side, with the side of the pastel.
Just the side of the pastel, and just very light.
And I noticed you've gone over some of your sky holes.
Just yeah, and I'll come back in with those.
Right.
That's okay. I'm just kind of thinking now I have this really pretty like gray purple on this side that I kind of want to put in for the foliage. And then going back to our picture, when you're looking at it, just indicating a little bit of where that's at. Just light touch. It's very easy to get your tree enormous too. It's easy to do. And I'm gonna come in and kind of put in my limbs a little bit. Looks like I need a lighter color. This is a new pastel. It's a little harder. Thinking about where the light's hitting it. So the darker on this side.
Excellent.
Right.
Spend 2 more minutes, Marie, focusing on that, and then we'll have you look at what other people are doing.
Okay.
And Marie might actually work on this a little bit more, you guys, after class is over, and she might, if she feels like it, and she might send it in to you with more detail on it. So don't worry, like we'll continue to walk you through. Some paintings take longer than others.
They do.
Marie, that's not a requirement. It's just if you feel like doing it,
Yeah.
you're welcome to do it. I just know you often. I know you well enough to know that you'll be obsessed and want to finish it.
Well, it's good practice. It's really good practice because, and I suggest even people doing this in different colors of underpaintings. Maybe you want to do a different,
like a blues or a
Yeah.
greens. That would be really cool.
It would, and do it, because that's the only way we're gonna. You've already established kind of where you want things to go, and so that's.
I want you guys to look at how she's laying those solid white lines out. They aren't solid. They stretch, they go solid for a little ways, then they become lighter. So one of the problems that I think people have is they get too heavy-handed with your lines. You try to make your hard lines go straight through. In nature, we see in some places we see thick trunk, and in other places it kind of blurs out a little bit.
Exactly. Oops. Good. So go ahead, Kyoko, and take, so this tree over here, again, take your pastel on its side and do this, and just kind of lightly go on your paper, and so we can dissolve those hard lines.
What color?
I would do your light muted color that you had, that you put on that tree is fine. You could even do a light blue too, or gray.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna come in. This is why I love these new pastels, is because they're fun, because you can come in and just, put in these grasses, and you've got your colors here, and you're just kind of pulling them up. And what it does is when you bring your grasses up over your tree, you're now saying to the viewer, this is in front of this plane. This plane is here, that plane's in the back. It also helps you as a painter to say, oh, I need to check my value and maybe I need to push things back.
That's looking pretty. All right, so go ahead and, I know you don't want to. Marie, I know you don't want to, but do your last marks and then stop and take a look at what everybody else is doing.
Yes.
You can see it becomes an obsession. It becomes an obsession.
It's fun. You want to have fun, and that's what I want you to have fun. I want you to just play and practice, and this may be completely different later. I may tone down colors. I may add more colors.
I had an accident in that paper.
Let me see.
Paper.
Oh, the pastel mat?
It got wet. I don't know how.
Let me see. Are you using the pastel mat?
No, I love pastel mat. This is that piece of rubbish, la carte. So when you see a big white spot in the front, it's because it got wet.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
It's coming.
Oh, wow, Jeannie.
Sky holds don't look quite right.
Ooh, Jean, dreamy.
I know, isn't it? Moody.
Up to the right, is that too much?
Yes, a little.
Yeah.
So push it back a little bit. Push it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Jean, you're and there's so much about this I like. So when I say this, don't get that there's so many things I like. Your branches are exactly equal on each side.
Yeah.
So get rid of that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, your back trees are brilliant. And the way they interact, the back trees and the way they interact with the front oranges, oh, delicious. So now just work on variation. It's really easy. We want to create patterns. What about Sandra?
Sandra, actually, I think you have really done a good job on looking at your lights and darks. That tree trunk to the right of your main focal tree, I would kind of blend that out a little bit. It's fighting for attention with your main tree. So I would blend that a little bit more.
No, fixing the
to the right and to the left, really. To the right and the left.
And then take your main tree's color on the right hand side and kind of bring it over. So what I'm saying is bring it, you want it to read where this is in front of this other tree. So just scumble some of this.
It has to be lighter. Yeah.
Over
also,
that other tree.
I feel like your emphasis is too much on the trunks, even in your main tree. It's too dark. So bring some cloud, like in some places, bring foliage over, the lighter foliage over the branches. So it's not just branches.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like some areas there are. So you have like branch and then tree background. That's what it looks like right now. So now you have to bring some heavy, lighter color using the side of your pastel over to partially obscure some of those branches. What you're painting looks more like a tree with no leaves.
It hasn't got many leaves, does it?
Right, because it's too because you haven't put in enough of those clumps on top of the. And Jean, you could probably do the same thing. That would also help with the branches in the front.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Your branches are all just sticking out.
Right.
They should be beyond the fact that they're too regular. They should be partially obscured in places by foliage.
Okay.
Yes. There you go, Kyoko. Nice. Very nice. Oh, I like that, Linda. That's really pretty. Oh, wow, Lisa. See how much that's changed with the grass? I love it. Yeah, just adding that grass in is like, it grounds it. Wow, you guys, good job. Oh, wow, Natalia.
I have a question. How do you finish the edge of the big tree? How do you how do you pop up the biggest tree
Yeah,
in the
okay.
front? How do you do the
Yep, lighter color. You're gonna need to pop it with the lighter color. So just like what Leah was saying to Jean, is on yours, you're gonna want to go ahead and take that light color, right? We see the light, and just lightly bring it over your other tree, just a little bit. Because you're letting the viewer know that that tree is set back and this one is in the front. You want to make it easy on your viewer. We don't want them to wonder, what is this? And is this right here, or where is it spatially in our picture? And so again, our picture is our guide, but once you get into it, I love everyone's interpretation of this too. Like, everyone's colors are so great. I love it. Sandy or Sandra, I would lighten up your foliage in the back.
I think, oh, where?
Right here, just right here a little bit.
Okay.
Just light, like, see how you have that really pretty purple? You could even scumble a little bit of that light purple over your orange, just to mute it just a little.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, not all of it, but just because it's kind of competing against your grasses in the front, which I love. They're beautiful.
So I want you guys,
oh, yes.
We are at 11 a.m.
Okay.
or whatever. So Marie, let's talk about doing that thing that we did. I'm going to pull this, we'll pull the spotlight down.
Yeah.
I want you guys to go to gallery view. Go ahead. Take them through the exercise.
Leah and I were talking about each of us going through. Huh?
Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry.
Oh.
It took me a minute.
Going through and really talking about one thing that you feel that you did right today and one thing that you feel you need to work on. So I'll start with Lisa.
I'm learning values, but I think I'm still working on that. And I tend to run too hot and bright. So I'm trying
too hot. Your hots and your brights will look amazing with neutrals next to them. That is a lesson that I feel like as a painter, I'm still learning that lesson.
Yeah.
After 20 years, I'm still learning. Yeah. We love the brights.
I love a lot of reds and things. So
it's just like joy and pain, right? Like you can't really experience joy unless you have a little bit of pain. So you need neutrals with your brights to really appreciate them. Okay. Jean.
Okay. Yes, Jean.
I like my sky and I like my grass.
Yes. And what's one thing that you think that you need to work on, that you can work on?
I don't really like my bushes to the left of the tree.
I love your bushes to the left.
Yeah,
of the tree.
I love your bushes.
I actually think you totally nailed it. I was surprised you didn't say that. I think you need to work on your tree. But like your bushes on the left are awesome.
But that's a good point, Jeannie, is that look at what we think as painters that we need to work on and what everyone else feels, you know? Right. So it's interesting. Okay, Kyoko, I think what you sent in, you're getting it. Like what you see, how you brought that lighter color over the other tree, you already can say, okay, this one's in front, that one's in back. So good job. So what's one thing that you learned today that you felt like you did good?
But I think this is my second or third time pastel.
Yeah.
The blending of the sky. Now I see the sky is not just one color, many colors. I like the sky the best. Yes.
I think you're starting to get that. Yes.
Yep.
What I don't like is that I'm not very good at blending because I still see the pastel edges. And also, like when you are drawing the picture of all the shapes, but when you made a picture to your own another paper, another writing, I think that depth has maybe the figure or the depth has changed because you are drawing it big in one way for demonstration, but the real picture had more green. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And I was maybe copying just your design. And then I now I know that I have a freedom. Even though I made the shape, I can make the end painting a little bit more distance. I don't know how.
Yes, well, and that was my printer problem, Kyoko, so not your fault. For whatever reason, it chopped the grass off. So, but yeah, I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But yes, you do have the freedom, and when you have that gut feeling of like, I need to do this, go with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Nice job.
Natalia.
Turn off your, you're muted, darling.
Okay. Well, I'm quite happy with my color selection because I use some colors that I maybe neglect a bit because they are not so high. I mean,
same thing Lisa said.
Yes. So I'm happy with that, I guess. But I feel this is a bit doesn't have the correct shape. I need more time to make some of the trees more like prominent, I guess. I don't know.
You need to work your edges. You need to work your edges more. You need to work your edges more. That's what's going to help you with your shape. You just need to keep working your edges until you get those shapes right, right? The edge where one tree meets the back, the front tree meets the background, where the leaves meet the trunk, where the tree top meets the sky. All of those are edges. Where the light leaves me, so you just need to work your edges a little bit more.
But I agree. I do like the colors you chose. They're really pretty.
Me too.
Yeah. Good. Good job. Okay, Linda.
I'm quite happy with actually the underpainting thingy because I think it's the first time I tried with pastel, or the second time, but never with alcohol. That was the first time with alcohol. And I feel also like I got quite, I mean, I wouldn't say skilled, that's too far, but I don't have a great selection of colors. I really have few colors. So to get kind of what I need, I have to layer a lot, which with this kind of weird paper that I'm using also creates like an interesting effect. But what I think I'm not really still getting, it's, I don't know, like in the end, how to make the all elements work. Like when the thing it's finished, I feel like
I think it's working I think it's working the edges you need to. You need more work on varying your edges.
Yeah.
Where a light area meets a dark area, where a tree meets a background, where the tree meets it. So really, as you're continuing to work, keep practicing that. And that is also something that you're like, I'm not really sure how to do, you know, like this is where you need to start adding a little bit more detail and variety in your darks and lights and in your strokes. Exactly. So that's where you're going to need to. But I think it's beautiful, and I really loved your underpainting. Kyoko, I think you did really, really well considering my reds are too hot. I like it. I don't know. I think they're pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah,
okay, Sandra.
I liked it a bit more this time. I felt a bit more in control. The last time it kind of came out okay, but I thought it looked nothing like the starting picture. And we did an interpretation of Mary's interpretation, which was this time.
It's a good observation.
This time I was able to, at one stage I skipped ahead with the grass and I was able to actually use my eyes and do it, as opposed to just doing what Mary's doing without even sometimes understanding what she's doing.
Yeah.
Or why she's doing it.
Good. That's great. That's good that you're trusting yourself.
Trusting the process. right?
You are.
Knowing that this process will take me to where I want to go,
That's right.
as opposed
But
to not
it's-
being clear on that process, right?
But it's fascinating because yes, I haven't done pastel landscapes,
Right.
and my style is not to be so loose. So for me, it's great to learn that how loose you
will-
can be and how it still looks like a tree at the end.
Good
I
job.
see you, Sandra, making great strides right now. I see you
Thank
making
you.
a lot in a lot of different areas. And I think what's happening is all of the things that you're learning are starting to go in a little bit deeper. And there's usually this confused period when that happens. When you're learning something more deeply, when you're integrating it into how you do
That's
everything.
it. It's coming together.
It's coming together, and it's a weird feeling, like, ooh, nice, Jean. God, just love that one. That might be my favorite piece you've ever done, Jean.
No, I think you're right. Painting loose can be tough.
Nice, Lisa B.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even known where to start, you know.
I know.
Lisa B.
And that's what I hope, that each time we do this, that we're still approaching it in the same manner, but the process, it just keeps going. It keeps going and keeps letting you feel that you know what you're doing. And it does. It gets into these weird, awkward stages. I think everyone did such a well job today.
And one of the things I want to explain about Emma, we haven't heard from you yet.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't even. Yes, good job, Kyoko.
Starting to come together.
Yeah, see, you're getting it.
Right. One of the things I want to explain about the roaming studio method is that we are very specifically teaching you generalities through specific assignments. So because I know you guys think very it's really easy to think very literally. I don't know how to do landscapes. I don't know how to do an apple. I don't know how to do a face. I don't know how to do a figure. I don't know how to do a brush. I don't know how to do this, right? I don't know how to do grass. I don't know how to do leaves. Like we get very kind of regimented in our thinking. And so each of these assignments is teaching you something that will help you in the other assignments. And we're teaching you that because I think brick by brick, every time you try something, you get better at it, you begin to add this as a vocabulary to how to apply these skills across the board. So every single one, you're learning at different paces how the whole process comes together. Whoops, did we lose Marie? Looks like we lost Marie. All right, in any event, hopefully she'll come back on in a minute. Oh, there she is. So that's a very specific way of dealing with, rather than lecturing at you about theory, we're having you practice the theory over and over and over again with different subjects so that you're able to approach anything and understand ultimately the generalities. Some of you have only been working with us for like a month. Others of you have been working with us for 6 months. Some of you have been working with us for years. But every single one of you, as we repeat these, you'll watch what happens in the next 6 months. You're going to bust through some major barriers. You're going to recognize other barriers, things that you get to jump over. So each time we return to these subjects, there is a general theme that's running through all of them. That makes sense.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the tree and the sky holes, wouldn't it just be easier to put the sky all the way down and then do the tree?
So, yes, good question. You can. What happens is with pastels, the more and more you put on, the more muddier potentially it can get, and that vibrancy. So it's better to do your tree and then put in your sky holes towards the end. It's just like doing the blades of grass or a little bit of the leaves. Right. Those are yeah.
And I have something to add to that, which is that in some places, the tree blocks the sky. We can't see it. So to have it there makes no sense, right? Because it makes no sense because we can't actually see it. Only in places. That's why we add the sky holes in very late in the process, because it's only in some places we see it. And in some places, it completely blocks it. If I ask you to draw this and let's see, this,
Except that the
right?
sky is there anyway, and the trees on
It
top.
is not, but
So-
you don't always see it, Sandra, because it's blocking. In some
know,
cases,
but-
the tree is solid and it's
Right,
blocking
but
what's
you
in
can
front.
make it solid where it is solid.
Watch me. If I ask you to draw my
that's
cell phone
different.
at, it's
No.
not,
No, because the sky is always there and
Yeah,
the cup is not.
it's different. We're talking about where we're looking. So in areas, the sky, the tree is not transparent. You can't see through it in all the places. If you
Yeah, but
can't
in
see,
bits of places you can.
you're overthinking this.
And try it out,
overthinking this.
Sandra.
You're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. What I'm trying to tell you is, if one thing is in front of another, in places you don't see the color. I understand, and I understand that you're saying there's a reflection of that light everywhere, but when you're setting this down in a flat plane, there are still things, even though the sky is everywhere, there's still areas where you don't see it.
But you can just paint over.
Yeah.
No?
You're thinking about the sky as a separate object from everything else. And
I just think it's easier to have a background in the back rather than adding bits of a background in the middle of a tree.
And we're trying to tell you why not, but if that's how you're feeling about it, then, and we're not communicating it, then I'm trying to tell you that in some places you don't see it.
I understand.
So, right. So you don't paint what you don't see. How's that? That's the answer.
And yet, when we did the water, we painted the color underneath.
We see the color underneath. We didn't paint what we don't see. We didn't paint the bottom of the water. We didn't paint we don't paint what's behind. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. It is more like this. And that's where your problem is happening. You're getting too literal and you're thinking about each thing as a separate thing. What I'm saying is, and this is relevant, is if I am painting these two things, I do not paint the cup where my phone is blocking it.
I totally agree with that.
Right. It's the same with the tree. It's the same with the tree. It does not matter if the sky is quote unquote all around it. There are parts where we don't see the sky. So that's why you do it that way, because there are actually parts where the tree is blocking from our view, from our two-dimensional view, our flat view, what we're, the sky that we're looking at. So that's the answer to that question. But if it doesn't make sense, that's okay too. I have a big invitation to argument, so argue with me. Actually, we are at 15 minutes past the hour, so we will continue this debate. I think everybody did great today.
Yes.
And
good job.
Yeah, great job. And thanks, Marie. That's Marie. Can you hang on a minute after everybody else goes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Bye. Have a good
Thank you
day.
very much. Bye.